Wednesday night edition of the Anaheim Calling Podcast. We are here to discuss and break down a 4-3 defeat at Honda Center against the Chicago Blackhawks. A pretty exciting game tonight for the Ducks, and one that you could say was about as ideal as it can be for the current state of this franchise.
It was the perfect tank game. I mean, there's going to be people that are probably pissed at how happy I am, and I get you. I get if you're mad at this result. Sure, bad fan, I hate the Ducks, whatever. But if you're looking at the long-term outlook for this team, this was probably the perfect result that you could have. The team played well. They played fun. You had goals. It was an entertaining game to be at. Yes, I was at tonight's game, which is why I still have my jersey on. And somehow they lost.
Oh, what a shame.
Somehow they lost, which was perfect.
What a shame.
Because little did I know until the end of the game, Chicago was only 4 points ahead of the Ducks before tonight.
Yeah, the Ducks needed to lose this game. This was an important game.
And so all the Chicago fans that were cheering at the end, I wanted to tell them thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Bad fan.
I guess. I don't know. I was debating if I was going to really go all out on this show, but yeah.
Why not? So this was an interesting game, though, because the kids got a lot of time in this game. Brendan Gooley was a little less noticeable, I would say, than the first game he played. I don't think he had as much ice time either, but this was a really strong game from Troy Terry and Max Jones. I mean, mostly Max Jones in that equation, but Troy Terry did get a goal, so I have to lump him in there.
That's right. You say that.
He had a good game. I mean, this was... We're going to get into more of the nitty-gritty here, but this was about as ideal as it can get because the youngsters all had pretty good games, and the Ducks still found a way to lose, therefore enhancing their draft position. Brendan Gooley tonight, by the way, in all situations played just under 20 minutes, 19 minutes, and at 5-on-5, he posted a 54% Corsi for percentage.
Yep.
So he hasn't had a bad game yet.
No, he
hasn't happened.
Has not had a bad game yet. And I mean, I'll say this on Gooley before we jump into the recap. He had a couple, let's say, precarious moments. I mean,
he's definitely confident with the puck.
Yes, but he had.
I think that's the diplomatic way to say it.
He had a couple pinches that were a little bit rough in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Yeah.
But he showed what he can do, and I think that overall, I like what I saw from him. I mean, at the end of the day, who do you think? I know you are very opinionated on this. Who would you rather take, him or Montour?
I mean, I've already said it. I've already gotten enough flack for it. But since you are asking me the question, I'm confident saying that it's not necessarily that I'd take Gooley over Montour. It's just that I'm fine with having him instead of Montour plus the draft pick that they got.
Yeah,
I'm already confident saying that. And of course, people went crazy over that yesterday when I tweeted it. But Brandon Montour's not as good as people think. So sorry if that hurts. Okay. One thing to mention, though, is that him and Fowler did have a bit of a rough night just overall as a pairing. They were actually the worst pairing in terms of expected goals for percentage. That'll happen when you're playing a high-flying offense like the Hawks. The Hawks aren't really – they don't have a ton of depth, but their top two lines are pretty good.
Well, they're a weird team. Their top two lines have really high skill, but they they play very high-event hockey. So even though they're creating chances for themselves and creating some high-danger chances at that, they're giving up a lot also. They rely on the power play a lot.
And this was a bit of a rough game for the Lindholm-Manson pairing. This is probably the first game I've seen in a while where, it wasn't like the game was solely on them, but some of the key moments in this game that were not in the Ducks' favor did occur with those two out there. You think back to we'll get into the goal, but Jonathan Toews had a really pretty assist, I believe, to tie the game, to make it 3-3. And so, I mean, this was a fun one, though. I mean, this was a competitive game through and through. Had some controversial moments, which we will surely get into here. Before we get into the recap, any bit of news that we should break down here? I don't think there was really anything noticeable other than that John Gibson may make his return on Friday.
Yeah.
He who has been out with, get ready for it, folks. This is peak tanking peak tankathon here. Out with wisdom teeth surgery.
Just shut him down. Just shut him down. Just
I
shut him
mean, I
down.
mean, I do applaud the transparency without the transparency, where they're not saying that they're tanking, but they're also saying their goalie's out because he's getting his wisdom teeth pulled. So they also made sure to note that the wisdom teeth were severely impacted. So
was that Magnus' fault, or is that what they're implying?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, I mean, that can happen. I mean, you can have,
True.
like, I mean, when I had my wisdom teeth pulled, I got lucky because they were not impacted. But the dentist had told me it's going to be a lot harder if they are impacted. So,
I mean, as Boom Snap Bam in our Twitch chat says, out for season because of wisdom teeth.
I mean, whatever you got to do to, ease the rebuild along here, ease the retool along. But okay, let's just break this game down.
Boom Snap Bam
go ahead.
Also adds wise move. Some very good wisdom there by Sea Monkey.
That's quite the wise comment there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first period, not a whole lot to note, really. I mean, it was a scoreless first period. I think the highlight for everyone, at least for Ducks fans, is that Max Jones had one really good shift, throwing on the backhand toe drag, and then he's made a habit of this along the half wall. He's kind of a slippery player. He doesn't, I think, he's not really thought of as a guy who's elusive or necessarily agile, but I would say that's a pretty underrated part of his game right now.
Yeah, and I think with Jones, well, that play also was on the penalty kill, which I think is an underrated aspect of his game that we're kind of starting to see develop and see kind of grow. But, I mean, we talked about this way back on our Patreon pod before Jones, I think, ever got a call-up. Or maybe it was right after his first call-up. But he's the one whose stock has just been keep going up, and up. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
After having gone down for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably the one that coming into the season I was least excited about. I think out of Terry, Comtois, Steele, Mahura, he was probably the lowest on my totem pole of guys that I was excited for. And I think after this little stint, we're seeing kind of why he was taken in the first round. Because, I mean, we may forget that he was actually taken before Sam Steele was taken.
Well, that's the thing, is that he, Comtois and Terry and Steele have gotten all the hype, but among all of those guys, Max Jones was the highest pick. He's the only. I mean, Sam Steele was, I think, 30th overall, but neither Comtois nor Terry were taken in the first round. Jones taken 24th overall in 2016, and it's funny because when he was first drafted, he was advertised as kind of a Nick Ritchie type, right? Just a bully, but he's a lot more than that. I mean, like I mentioned, he's really good on his edges.
His hands are better than I thought.
He's got hands. I mean, I remember there was a clip, I believe last year, of him warming up and he was throwing on some moves. I thought, okay, but he's actually using them in those hands in game situations. So I got to say, I'm really impressed with him. And if he pans out or continues to develop, to me, that also takes a lot of pressure off of guys like Terry, Comtois, because he can kind of lead that charge while they develop in the wings. I think that Terry, it's funny because he does have the hype, he does have some of the accolades, but you can see the difference between the two in terms of their polish.
Speaking of which, with Troy Terry, so two things on that. If those two can keep this chemistry going, because you look at them on the ice and they just kind of know where each other is, that's something that can be built upon. And I mean, not saying that they're Teemu and Paul, but we've seen if you have a left wing and a right.
Oh no! Don't put that on them.
I'm not putting that on them, but I'm saying if you have a left wing and a right wing that know each other so well, we've kind of become accustomed over the last 10 years with Getzlaf and Perry to have that center wing combo. But if you have two wings that understand each other, that's also very, very valuable for a team, because they know each other and you can stick a center in there and just kind of, it doesn't have to be the best center in the world, but he can kind of profit off the two wingers.
Right. I mean, tonight they were playing, I believe, with Derek Grant for stretches.
Yes.
So, to your point.
But the other thing I wanted to mention, so on my commute home, on my drive home from the Ducks game, I don't know if you actually have listened to this yet, but Cabby from TSN has his Cabby Presents pod, and he interviewed Ryan Getzlaf.
Okay.
After the Winnipeg 8-3 loss or something like that is what he said. But he brought up essentially one of the Stasnys when he was in Quebec had said.
Okay, Marion Stastny. Or no, that'd be
Peter
Stastny.
Basically, I think it was something along the lines of like saw a player and said, I want that guy to play with me because he's going to be scoring, a younger guy. And so he asked Getzlaf about that, and he mentioned kind of sort of Rakell, but that was one of those things that Rakell wanted to make the move to the wing. But he did mention that a young kid that he is excited to see is Troy Terry because he shoots the puck really well.
I knew this was going to be about Terry. I was just waiting for it.
Out of Ryan Getzlaf's mouth, you have the praise for Troy Terry's shot.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. If those two make a lot of sense together in theory. We're still waiting for Terry to be able to play with Getzlaf because he has gotten those opportunities. But we're just waiting for it. We're also waiting for Getzlaf to actually get back in the lineup.
We haven't seen him with Getzlaf since the first little stint of the season, pretty much.
Right, and I think a little bit of last year too. I mean, it's been a while. We did see him in preseason together as well. Okay, so let's get into this game though, because like I mentioned, first period, a lot of good things in terms of the young guys. Second period though, got off to a bit of an ugly start. I mean, there's not really any other way to put it. Drake Caggiula goes back to recover a puck along the wall, was it at the end of the first or at the
very beginning
of the second?
Very, very beginning of the second period.
Yes. And Rickard Rakell goes to make a hit, and I mean it was a bit of a bang play. Caggiula turns his back, and Rakell just doesn't make any attempt to stop. He follows through right in the numbers, boards him pretty good. Caggiula has to leave the game. And that would cost Rickard Rakell the rest of the night. He got a 5-minute major for boarding, and then he got a game misconduct. So I think that, on one hand, it's tough because you see a guy like Rickard Rakell get penalized like that, and he's not that kind of player. He doesn't have that bone in his body, and I don't think that this was a malicious play by him. But the reality is that these are the kind of plays that that the NHL has been really trying to get out of the game. And, a lot of people on Twitter, of course, didn't agree with it and thought that this should have been a minor for boarding. The reality of it is that if this were a guy on another team wearing a different jersey, maybe who has a different name, that's more of a known guy, I can guarantee that people would be hooting and hollering about this play.
Yeah,
and so I thought it was the right call on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, so I wasn't actually able to see that live. I was walking back to my seats, and I just saw Caggiula on the ice and then caught the replays. I think it's a hit that it's weird. I think slow-mo almost makes it not look as bad as when you watch it in full speed.
In full speed, it looks a lot worse.
In full speed, it looks a lot worse, and I think it's one of those where it's not a good hit. I think the fact that Caggiula was hurt, a lot of that plays a part in what the refs...
That definitely played a part, for sure.
Because the refs came together, and Rakell first went to the box, and they were discussing about whether they were going to make it a major or a minor. And once it's a major penalty, you also have to give them game misconduct there. And you gave him the game misconduct, and so he was out for the rest of the game. It's one of those where Caggiula showed him... The numbers were shown for a fair amount of time. The hit happened a little bit away from the boards, and, I mean, it's just... It's not as if Rakell was out there trying to hurt him, but it was a reckless hit. I mean, there's no other way around it.
I mean, the reckless is the right word because I don't think it was malicious, but it was also kind of bad timing. But he didn't really do anything to prevent it from happening, and ultimately that's what cost him the night of work, certainly working to Anaheim's advantage in terms of the tanking. But the big... and they discussed this a little bit on the post-game show on NBC. Supplemental. I don't think so, because usually supplemental discipline is if the league deems that the punishment on the ice was not appropriate or was not heavy-handed enough. Not heavy-handed, but just not enough, basically. And I think that the punishment here fits. Boarded a guy in the numbers, potentially hurt him, and he got the game for it. He got tossed from the game. I don't think you need anything more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, if he gets a game or two, I would be shocked, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, like you said, at the end of the day, you have to look at it as supplemental. It's supplemental to, like you said, call on the ice.
Does he get a fine or a talking to?
I don't think so. I think that's probably going to... They're probably going to... I mean, look at it. He was suspended basically for 2/3 of a game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is that these are things that we factored in, is the fact that the hit... the punishment certainly cost him already most of the game, and it was. I mean, it also gave Chicago a 5-minute power play. I mean, I just think that all these things are going to make it so that he doesn't get suspended. I would be very surprised if that happens.
Yep, same. Completely agree with you there.
It's funny because I feel like last season when we were doing this pod, we had it. I feel like we had a few suspensions to talk about, and this year, I mean, they've been very few and far between.
Yeah, it seems like the league as a whole, I feel, there haven't been that many controversial hits. I mean, there's the Tom Wilson one at the beginning of the year, but that's Tom Wilson. You have the one last night, I guess, with the Zdeno Chara hit on Evander Kane. But for the most part, I feel like it's been a relatively clean season. And now that I've said that, somebody's probably going to find something and mention it to me on Twitter saying there's been more suspensions this year than any other year or something like that.
Well, so the ensuing power play was pretty eventful, not just for the Blackhawks, but also for the Ducks. The Hawks would strike first, it sounds weird to say, but you'll find out in a second here. So Alex DeBrincat, a beautiful shot, is able to get it along the left circle, has all day to just walk it in, no pressure, and just goes high glove on Ryan Miller. Maybe one that Miller would like back, but that's a perfect shot.
Oh,
I don't think you can really fault him there. But then 4 minutes later, or just about, the Ducks would actually get a shorthanded goal. Devin Shore. I mean, geez, how many goals does he have? Was this like a second or third goal at the Ducks?
I think second.
I don't think
maybe
it was
third.
his first because they didn't say anything about his first.
It was definitely not.
He already
his
had
first.
One.
Yeah,
it couldn't have been more than his third. I mean, he has not scored very much as a member of the Ducks. This could be a good little aside. What do you make of Devin Shore so far? Because that trade, the Cogliano trade, that was the first real move that Bob Murray made this season, kind of as a result of the Ducks' poor play.
So this was his second goal for the Ducks.
Oh man,
yeah. Let's go with that. I feel like I've mentioned this before. He's whatever. He's a replacement level player.
He's truly whatever. Yes, but it was a nice play by him though. He actually flashed a little stick handling ability, which I did not expect. Initially gets the cross ice pass to Derek Grant blocked. He's able to collect the rebound and then is able to just pot it home. This reminded me of a goal that occurred recently that I just can't recall from the Ducks.
By the way,
Silverberg?
I do not remember, but people in our Twitch chat want us to give an honorable mention because we were mentioning Shore that Andrew Cogliano's streak, continuous streak of games that he was eligible to play in is completely over now with him getting hurt.
I actually thought about bringing that up, but I didn't know how well that would fly around here. So he has an upper body injury. Is that what it is?
Something like that. I still haven't actually even seen the hit, but I saw that he was out, and that's sad. Sucks. There's no other way to put it.
It sucks, but by the same token, the fact that he's only had to miss one game his entire career is a pretty nice spot to be in.
True.
Now, end of the second period, this is definitely a goal that I think Ryan Miller will want back. Artem Anisimov is able to bring it all the way down the left wing. He's got all the time in the world, not a whole lot of pressure from Cam Fowler himself. Anisimov kind of fakes a little reverse pass as if he's going to go around the net and then just goes high blocker short side on Miller, who kind of inexplicably goes down in the butterfly on this play, where I know most goalies will go down on almost every shot, but this is one of those where you want to instill in your goalie, you don't have to drop on every single shot.
Yeah.
Did not have to do that here. And anyway, it's a goal that I'm sure he knows what he did wrong. They'll talk about it in the film room, but that would put the Hawks up 2-1 and would kind of start to set the stage for a bit of a takeover here.
Yeah, it wasn't the best goal in the world. Shorthanded goal on top of that.
Yeah.
So
I think that Fowler could have been a little more aggressive there, but of course I'm going to say that. All right, and then from there, right after, Carter Rowney with a subtle redirection is the tagline on NHL.com, and I think that's the only way to put it. A nice play by Ryan Kessler to intercept a clearing attempt from the Blackhawks.
Everyone, you heard it right there. Felix gave Ryan Kessler a compliment.
Hey, I call it like I see it. If someone does something
Same.
positive on the ice, I'm not gonna spin it. But
okay,
yes,
we should probably spin it as Ryan Kesler did a positive thing on the ice.
Ryan Kesler did a thing is probably the bigger headline here, because that has not always been the case this season.
No.
Just kind of throws it on net, kind of as a pass, but the puck takes a funny hop, and then Carter Rowney's able to get a stick on it. That would make it 2-2 going into the third, and then none other than Elite 1C, Derek Grant, goes behind the net on the forecheck and is able to get the puck back from Corey Crawford, who hadn't played since the month of December. Derek Grant then goes between the legs, no look, backhanded pass to your boy, Troy Terry, who's able to finish it, goes high. Corey Crawford's on the ground, has no idea where he is. Where in the world is Corey Crawford? Terry with the nice goal celebration. He looks almost surprised that it went in. That would make it 3-2. Honda Center is just going nuts. It was a nice little play there, I got to say.
Yeah, it was definitely just a nice little play. Just a nice little play.
Somewhere Mike Smith was smiling watching this goal happen.
Somewhere.
On a plane, maybe.
Troy Terry, what can I say? Just so Your good. Boy. My boy scores a goal right in front of me.
Oh, so good.
It was so good. I was very happy. Bonnie can actually confirm. I was very happy about this goal. I was happy, but
you two have season tickets right next to each other.
I was happy, but I was also very concerned for the tank. But I was also happy.
I mean, these are the positive moments in a season like this, where these are the guys that you want to see taking that next step, because ultimately a lot of the success of this Ducks retool, as it's now been officially referred to by Bob Murray, you need these guys playing well to feel confident that this is going to work out. If the young guys flame out, that's a tough spot to be in. So third period, 5 minutes left. This would kind of be the beginning of the end for Anaheim, unfortunately, or fortunately, if you're like Jake.
Pro tank.
Jonathan Toews takes it down the left wing. Toews, by the way, who is having quietly, I feel like, a really good season. If you look at his numbers on the year, it's pretty impressive what he's been able to do. Before tonight, 64 points in 63 games. I mean, that's pretty good from Jonathan Toews. So he takes it around the Ducks net, and both Josh Manson and Hampus Lindholm seem to have the situation under control. But I'm going to give credit to Toews here, because he makes a pinpoint pass to Alex DeBrincat. I don't think there's a lot of players in the league who can make this pass, and he kind of shifts his body a little bit to open up the stick, make Manson think he might be going back to the point, puts it on DeBrincat's tape. That makes it 3-3. At that point, the Ducks are in trouble.
Yep. And if you look at the game flow chart for this game, and actually might as well just throw it up right now on the channel, but you can see the Ducks did a pretty good job of getting a big push in. Then once they scored the go-ahead goal, they sat back hard.
Yeah, man.
And they
somewhere Randy Carlyle is smiling.
Oh, the turtle. Maybe the turtle
maybe
was
from
real.
Maybe from the Ducks press box.
Yeah.
Where is Randy Carlyle these days? Does anyone know?
Do we really want to know where he is?
I mean, I know you don't, but I'm curious.
I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, he probably still goes to games. I mean, he's technically still being paid by the team.
He is still employed. He just does not have his coaching duties anymore.
Yes. Okay, but then really this was the nail in the coffin for the Ducks. Late in the third period with 24 seconds left, where they do get a little late pressure on. They just get in a little too deep, Josh Manson, and then from there the Hawks are able to break it out. And Brandon Saad makes a beauty of a move around Hampus Lindholm. Just a nice little toe drag. Again, this was not the strongest game from Lindholm and Manson, but when you look at the players who are doing it to them, that's when you can cut them a little slack, I guess. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Because I honestly feel like this was not a vintage game for those two. But on the flip side, the talent that they're facing is pretty high.
Yeah, the players they're playing against are very, very good. Their skill level is very, very good.
Right.
They haven't. Last game they weren't very good either.
Well, they haven't played together all year.
Well,
that's kind of a rough one.
And so that's why I think there's gonna be some good and some bad games for Lindholm and Manson together.
Right, and you don't really mind too much if things aren't going so well right now.
No, and that's where I'm at.
They played 21 minutes together tonight, so they played a lot. And if you look at their most common opposition tonight, I mean, they certainly didn't get a light load. I mean, they were going up against Kane, Taves, Keith, Saad, DeBrincat. I mean, that's the Bob Murray doing his best to shelter the other Ducks defensemen, which again is probably the way. Like, that's the thing that we talked about all year, is this is probably the way that this blue line should be utilized.
Yeah.
But anyway, so on the play, Manson unable to get back to block the pass from Saad to Kane. Kane, who, I mean, in a lot of situations, if it's a left-handed shot, catching a pass on his backhand on his off wing, it probably doesn't cost you right away like this. I mean, in the blink of an eye, Kane goes from a backhand reception right back to his forehand and then just absolutely roofs it far side on Ryan Miller. The amount of players in the league that can do that and score, you can probably count them on one hand. That was an all-world shot, and that would win the game for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, basically you saw the puck get to Patrick Kane, and you pretty much knew that
By the way, his 40th goal of the season.
You pretty much knew that puck was going to end up in the back of the net when it ended up on his stick. And so, yeah, Blackhawks score, end up taking the win. I mean, you can look at this game a couple different ways. You can look at it as if the Ducks came out, they played a pretty good game against a team that's also probably not that good at the end of it, but has high skill. They were able to have the kids play. They were able to keep up and actually have a really strong push. And you can either be pissed off and mad with how that game ended and sitting back on a lead and allowing the goals and then sitting back and then allowing that last second goal. Or you can look at it like how I'm looking at it, which is you were able to see the team play well. You were able to see the kids play well. No, they didn't defend the lead like you wish they would have, and they didn't finish off the game. But at the end of the day, this was not the end of the world that we lost this game. This was probably more beneficial in the long run that they lost this game with, like I mentioned at the top of the show, if the Ducks would have won this game, they would have been 2 points back of the Blackhawks. This puts more space between them and the Blackhawks, which the more space that can be put between them and other teams for picks is a very good thing because the Ducks need a top 5 pick this year. They really do. They really need a top 5 pick.
You can't come out of this season with, a pick in the teens or the later lottery picks.
Yeah, you got to have a top 5 pick.
They need something to show for the season, but it's interesting because even with this win tonight for Chicago, they're still 5 points out of the final wild card spot. So, and that's the thing. Even when you're gunning for that playoff spot as a team that's, I would still say that Chicago is in a retool. If you end up falling short, you hurt your draft chances, and you're just kind of sitting there disappointed. And so I think that for the Ducks, yeah, it's a bitter pill to swallow right now because you're losing a lot of games, but I think long term, this is the play. I mean, this is kind of the textbook thing that you're supposed to do.
Short term pain for long term goal. Oh, South Burning brings up something that's relevant to this. Was Bobby Ryan the last top 3 pick for the Ducks? Yeah, the last pick that the
top
Ducks,
3, yeah,
the last pick that the Ducks have had in the top 10, because Richie was 10th, so I don't really. That's not top 10. Would have been Hampus Lindholm at 5th. And then Bobby Ryan, was it 6th? Was Morgan Riley 5th?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, Bobby Ryan was 2nd. And so before Hampus Lindholm, the last
Price was 5th in that draft.
The last time that Hampus Lindholm, the last time the Ducks had picked in the top 10 was also Bobby Ryan before the Hampus Lindholm draft. So, yeah. I think that Felix has gone a little bit of lag right here. Okay. Got you back?
Uh-oh. I mean, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, so we are all good.
Well, Bonnie in our chat is asking how many games do the Ducks need to lose for you to be happy, Jake?
For me to be happy, I need to ensure that we're going to have number 1 overall pick.
So all of the games.
Yes.
It's the only way.
It's the only way.
Okay. Well, any other thoughts in this game, or do you want to jump into some questions here?
I think Max Jones had a really, really good game. I think the Ducks did a good job with shots from overall. The only negative, and you can see it on the screen right now, is that a lot of the chances were from right in front of the net. And if you look at overall expected goals, Jones and Terry second and third on the team in expected goals on the game.
Well, okay, so let's do an update on this, because I feel like this is kind of a bit of the debate of the rest of the season. Where are you still at on Jones and Terry in regards to AHL versus NHL? You know, whether you should send them down now.
Well, they can't.
Or have them up.
They're up.
So can they not possibly go back down?
They can't.
Really?
They don't have any call-ups.
I thought that it was that they can go down, but then they can't come back up unless it's emergency recall.
Well, one of them can go down when Getzlaf is healthy.
Okay.
But if you think about it, right now they're at 12 players on the team. They're at 12 healthy skaters, 6 healthy defensemen. So
they're basically one of them. At least one of them is here to stay.
At least one of them is here to stay. Correct.
Wow. Well, that's an interesting wrinkle. Do you think there's any possible workaround there?
No.
I mean, that we're not thinking of here?
The only possible workaround is if potentially one of them is on an emergency recall because of Getzlaf being out injured.
Right.
That maybe they're on one of them is.
Some people are saying Kasha in the chat, and Kasha's done for the year.
Yeah, Kasha is done for the year.
That's not happening.
But Getzlaf, when he comes back, if one of them is on an emergency recall, they have to be sent back down immediately. And that does not count as one of the 4. And so they could send one of them down.
Does this make trading Gibbons a little weird? Just to have the option of sending them down? Or how much does it even matter, I guess?
Well, the issue is, even if they sent them down, there's no one else that they could call up. Right. I mean, right. It's an odd situation. It is very much, and that was my concern.
Well, okay. What about Patrick Eaves?
So that's the issue, is they don't have any call-ups. They cannot call anyone up unless one of them is an emergency. Because they have 4 guys on the roster.
So they have to stage an emergency. That's the only way here.
Well, I mean, we had actually that happen. We had Sam Steele and Jacob Larson with the Ducks today on emergency recall. The only way that they can get in the lineup, though, is if there is an injury. And so I think Larson actually even took warm-ups because they didn't know if one of the defensemen was going to be able to go.
Right. So, man, this is an interesting situation. But you know what? Again, I spoke to this on not the bonus pod, but I think it was our podcast on Monday, post-trade deadline. You know, I've been saying it all season that I think that where they should be is the AHL, you know, in that playoff drive. But again, you're trying to groom them for the NHL. And they're not going to really learn to play NHL hockey by not being in the NHL. And so you're seeing also from especially Jones and to a degree Terry that they can at least hang and they can show something. And so I don't think this is the end of the world. This may be tough to hear for Gulls fans who want to see that exciting Gulls team make a playoff push. I mean, once the Ducks season ends, right, and if the Gulls are still in it, then they can go back down, correct?
Yes, they can go down basically once the Ducks season has ended.
Right, but I think ultimately this is probably what the organization wanted, is to just give Terry and Jones some run in the NHL when things are already kind of over anyway, and then go from there.
Yep. Well, yeah, because, I mean, sorry on the send down really quickly, but they can be sent down all they want. The issue, because they're eligible for the AHL playoffs, the issue is that they are, that basically if they get sent down, the Ducks will not have a full roster.
Right. So I guess the workaround would be to pick someone up on waivers, something like that.
Yeah, if someone goes on waivers.
Just pick up a warm body off waivers.
Speaking of which, I did want to make mention of this. Someone brought it up to me on Twitter that I guess John Aller's last game made mention that waivers don't apply anymore, which is just actually wrong. Waivers apply from a certain amount of days prior to the season till the season ends. That's the waiver period.
Mm-hmm.
Like it that as
Right.
far as it goes, that's what it is. So Magna needs waivers to go down.
Here's a conspiracy tinfoil hat for you that is also completely joking. What if this is Randy Carlyle urging Bob Murray to keep the kids up to submarine Dallas Aikens, so that hopefully Carlyle gets another shot at coaching next season?
No. Speaking of Dallas Aikens,
if you could see Jake's face right now and the pure dismissal to that little poke. So good.
Speaking of the San Diego goals, they put scores up. At the game they put up a score for their most recent game, and they also put at the bottom, the San Diego Gulls lead the AHL in goals per game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that's going to last without some of those players down there, though.
Fair. All right, so let's jump into some.
It sucks to say.
Let's get into some questions. So for people watching the live stream, start throwing your questions into the Twitch chat. And for those of you watching the recorded version of this on YouTube or listening to the recorded version of this on your favorite podcast services, we do a live stream of this show each and every time at twitch.tv/AnaheimCallingSBN. You can subscribe to us on there, and it's a way for you to support the show in a way that's completely free to you. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime subscription each and every month, and it is completely free to you to help support this show. You do have to hit that subscribe button every 30 days, so if you have not done that and you do enjoy the show, please do that again after 30 days. It really helps out more than you can imagine. So, with that being said, let's jump into some questions. And I saw one early, just right up here, and it was from Anime Holics D94. Are these 3 upcoming Tank Bowl games against the Kings the 3 most important regular season games in the history of this rivalry?
I'm so excited to see what kind of shenanigan moves will be pulled off by both teams in composing their lineups. Oh, it turns out that John Gibson has a dentist appointment tonight. He can't be in net.
It turns out Ryan Getzlaf is hurt.
Ryan Getzlaf's power went out at home, and he has to stay for when the electrician comes over. I can't wait to see what these teams will do, because I think it's going to get to that point. I mean, again, what's in it for either team to win any games the rest of the way here? Especially when you consider, this is kind of a fun little rivalry aspect, that I don't think either team wants to see the other with a Jack Hughes or Capo Caco within the division.
No.
I don't think that either the Ducks nor the Kings are interested in seeing their crosstown rival have one of those guys terrorizing them for the next decade.
Yeah.
And so lose for Hughes is the answer.
Yes, it 100% is. All right, so we had a couple questions here. One from Infinite Jester. Knowing that it's better long-term for the team to be losing games, what should a fan be looking for when they go to Honda Center?
Wait, what? Sorry, I'm getting called out in the chat for being a crusty analyst.
Oh,
I don't know what that means. Again.
Oof. So
anyway, but what should they be looking for at Honda Center?
Yeah, if you're going to a game, knowing that it's better to lose a game.
Well, I mean, yes, statistically, it's better to lose a game in the grand scheme, in the kind of game theory aspect of this season. But obviously, there are still positives to be taken away. There are still things to root for. Like Jake and I mentioned, you want to be able to see the young guys showing things that could potentially carry over to next season. Like we saw tonight, for example, that shift from Max Jones, like we've seen from Troy Terry the last couple games, getting shots on net, giving himself opportunities, and then seeing what some of your, I guess, young veterans have. I mean, on one hand, it's better for the tank that Lindholm and Manson are struggling right now, but these are still guys that you're counting on to buoy and usher in the next generation here. And so you gotta see nice performances throughout pockets of the lineup. You still need guys playing well. You just can't have that ultimately translating into 2 points at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, basically when I go to games, what I'm looking for is just to enjoy the game. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a hockey fan because it's my favorite sport. It's entertainment.
Have a beer.
And if
you're not of drinking age, grab a soda.
Yeah. So I don't know, sit down, enjoy, watch the game, have some fun, maybe watch some players from the other team. I mean, this is a weird season where it's not exactly the best idea for the Ducks to win, so why not just kind of take a second, take a step back instead of living and dying with the team winning and losing, kind of be able to take that step back and enjoy players on the other team. I did that earlier on in the year with the Flames being in town and just watch Johnny Gaudreau, and that was amazing. I was actually for the first time live able to appreciate what he can do, and it was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, enjoy the fact that you're watching the best, even though the Ducks are one of the worst teams in the NHL this season. These are still some of the best hockey players in the world, and you got to be able to appreciate that up close and personal.
Yeah. So we got another question from I saw it from Vandermy 2253. What could be the potential return for the Blues Sharks first plus Henrique Fowler be, or would it be more worth it to keep that pick?
So to trade Henrique or Fowler
plus the Blues / Sharks first. Draft?
Would it be worth? I mean, I think they should keep the pick unless the pick allows you to move up in the draft.
Yeah,
that would be the only alternative, because if you're using that pick to get a roster player who's, like, let's say if they turn that pick into a trade, if you package that pick plus Henrique and Fowler for, let's say, a young player on another team whose value has gone down, kind of like this reminds me a bit of the Jonathan Drouin situation a few years ago, right? A player like that who is clearly very good, but is also kind of on his way out, but also very young. If they do that, that's fine. But I think ultimately you want to hang on to the pick to either make the pick or move up and get a better one. So yeah, I don't think it's worth it though to flip it for a veteran or something like that.
Yep. So SCFU Shane said, what are the percentage chance that Jones stays up for the rest of the year? It's pretty much 100%, in my opinion. And then Lockdown,
it's pretty high.
Lockdown Late Night said, which is better, Patrick Kane or Nikita Kucherov? Or who is better?
Ooh, that's a fantastic question. Who is better? I mean, on raw talent, I feel like they're pretty much neck and neck.
Yeah.
They're as close as you can be. I mean, man, who would you rather have on your team right now?
Kucherov.
Let's say you're starting a team from scratch.
Kucherov.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think Patrick Kane is really, really good. But Kucherov's a center, right?
No, he's a winger.
Or no, he isn't.
Winger. They're both wingers.
No, yeah, he's a winger, but he's kind of like a center though in how much he actually hangs on to the puck and makes plays. You could say the same for Patrick Kane, but I just think Kucherov is so. And I mean, I don't know. We're really splitting hairs. They're both really good. And I think that if Chicago makes the playoffs, there's no way in hell that Kane doesn't win the MVP.
Probably not. All right, so let's kind of blitz through these questions. So this came in from JNOP88. Said, question, do you guys think that if the Ducks draft third overall and the Russian stud is the consensus pick, that Murray would draft him?
I think it's very unlikely.
I think they would go Cousins or Cozens, however you want to say it. And then we had this question from Boom Snap Bam said, should Bob Murray call up Steele at the end of the season to get to know what his locker room personality plus more NHL experience? So what's happening with that is essentially the Ducks, if nobody has reported if it's emergency, but my assumption based upon all the information we have is all four of the guys that were sent down on a paper transaction were done and called back up. So the Ducks have used their 4 available call-ups. Anyone that's called up now is an emergency recall. Steele is actually with the Ducks right now on an emergency recall. So he's in the locker room, but the only way he can get in a lineup is if guys are hurt. So it's not exactly a thing of if they want to put him in, it's if there are guys out so he can be put in.
Yeah, I mean, this is the cat minutia we all live for.
So, all right. So let's end with let's go through these 2 questions real quick. From Bonnie said, does keeping Gibson out of games help or hurt his Vezina chances, or is that gone now? I think it's well gone.
That
ship sailed on when there was that game, all those games where he was letting in all those goals.
That disability has, I think it's been about 3 months since that disappeared. Maybe not 3 months. We're actually almost getting to 3 months because John Gibson basically stopped being good in January, and then he got hurt, and the Ducks went down the toilet. So I don't see any chance of him winning it right now. I don't even think he gets nominated, actually. I'm going to go further. I'm going to take this one step further. I don't think he's going to get finished as a finalist.
I think
he doesn't finish as a finalist.
I think he gets a finalist. All right, so you're a little bit laggy.
No, dude, are you kidding me?
What? You're a little
on what? On is he going to be a finalist?
I think he does, but you're getting a little bit laggy, so let's wrap this thing up right here. So, for those of you watching the recorded version of this or listening to it, we do this on YouTube, or we post this video on YouTube. If you want to go there and like and subscribe to the channel, that does help out a lot. What else is there, Felix?
All right, so let's wrap this thing up. Thanks a lot for today, guys. As always, I think Jake may have already mentioned this, but we do really appreciate you guys supporting us through our Twitch stream. It's a really fun way for us to interact with you post-game. The Twitch chat is really fun. It helps us kind of keep the conversation going here with the questions. So that's twitch.tv/Anaheim Calling SBN. If you're an Amazon Prime member, Amazon gives you a Prime membership to support your favorite streamers. So if you are a current member of Amazon Prime and you have not yet subscribed on Twitch, please, I urge you to go do that. And that really, A, it makes this more fun, and B, it helps the show keep going because we put in a lot of time and effort to this, and we have to find a way to keep it going somehow. Also, please make sure to go check out our Patreon page. This one is really worth it. They're all really worth it, but this one's really, really worth it. Patreon.com/ACPod, $5 a month. You get 2 bonus episodes a month where we go deep dive into different topics. This is a doozy. We did a full audit of the Ducks organization, basically. We went player by player, prospect by prospect. We did a full analysis of where the rebuild should go. We basically did a mock rebuild, and it was a lot of fun. And then on Monday, this past Monday, we did a full breakdown of the entire NHL trade deadline, trade by trade. And so, honestly, if you're a diehard hockey fan or a diehard Ducks fan or both, I think that they're not mutually exclusive. Go to that page, patreon.com/ACPod. Make your $5 pledge, and you will not regret it. Now, for $1, you can still show some support. You can still give us a little pat on the back, and for $1, you get access to our Patreon supporter Discord chat. And you also get this at the $5 level, but at the $1 level, it's also a perk. That way, if news breaks or we're just on our phones during the day, we can just chat about whatever's going on. I think it's a lot of fun. For our Anaheim Calling staff, we have a Slack chat, which gets ridiculous sometimes. We want to spread some of that fun into the Discord chat with our supporters. So go ahead and check that out. Once again, that's patreon.com/ACPod. Now, to wrap things up here, make sure to check us out on the Apple Podcast app. Leave a rating and a review if you've been enjoying the show. And, of course, we are now on Stitcher. So look up Anaheim Calling on Stitcher and SoundCloud. We're also there. Check us out on social media. Anaheim Calling is on Twitter @Anaheim Calling. Jake is on Twitter @ReindeerGames91. I'm on Twitter @Felix_Sicard. And that will pretty much do it for us tonight, guys. We will be back Friday night to break down the Ducks Golden Knights matchup, and we will talk to you then. Thanks a lot for listening.
Bye.